Hey guys, Jarek here, and today we're going to be looking at the KJW 1022. Now there are two things I need to address before I fully get into this review. 1. The real 1022 is the same price or cheaper as the KJW 1022. Now this is true, but this is also not a very fair comparison. In all reality, the KJW 1022 is more advanced than the Ruger 1022. It does not get any more simple as a Ruger 1022 when it comes to semi-automatic 22 rifles. On top of that, it has been in production for quite a while, so of course the price has dropped dramatically, whereas the KJW just came out. Not to mention, if you're complaining about a gas blowback rifle for around $200 in airsoft, you should probably just get out of the sport. The second thing I need to mention is that they sort of bastardized the look of the 1022. If you want your KJW 1022 to look like this, there's a link down below in the video information telling you how to do so for about $20. With that said, let's move on to the real 1022. The real 1022 is made by an American company called Ruger. Ruger's two most commonly sold guns are the Ruger 1022 and the Ruger Mark II, another .22 firearm. The 1022 went into production in 1964 and is still being made to this day, and there is a plethora of different kinds of 1022s you can get. The most commonly sold one though is the simple woodstock 1022, much like what you're seeing right now. I can personally attest to the 1022 being a very good rifle, and it's very fun to plink around with. I've owned mine since I was 18 and absolutely love my 1022. The main reason this gun sells so well is because it's a cheap, affordable, reliable, semi-automatic 22 rifle. 22 bullets are very cheap, and this is the main gun to go out on the range and just plink around with all day. People that aren't as resilient aren't going to be complaining about their shoulder hurting in the morning, and let's just be honest, 22 rifles are fun to shoot. Now, out of all the different firearms I own, my most commonly fired firearm by far is my Ruger 1022. Moving right back to airsoft, the KJW 1022 comes in a simple cardboard box held in by styrofoam. It's nothing too fancy, but it'll get the job done for across-seas shipping. Inside of the box you'll find a poster with a KJW high kappa and the KJW 1022 on it, an instruction manual that's somewhat small but tells you everything you need to know and is overall pretty decent, not a huge amount of Chinglish in there, a KJW catalog kind of showing almost everything they've made, a bag with a small box of BBs and a quick load tool which honestly you do not need to use because a regular speed loader loads this magazine perfectly fine, and of course the KJW 1022. Now, as I mentioned before, KJW really did bastardize the look of the 1022. The 1022 is a target shooting 22 rifle. There is absolutely no reason to tactical it up. It looks very goofy when you do. On top of that, getting a woodstock is almost $200 for this gun, which is completely unacceptable. Fortunately, someone found a way to make a real 1022 stock fit onto the KJW 1022. The real 1022 stock will only cost you about $10 to $20. And this mod overall is very simple. A little bit of sanding and dremeling here and there, and then the stock will fit. In my mind, it is entirely worth it to do this mod. And in the end, the gun will look like this, which to me looks a lot better than before, and you still have the top rail, which is the only rail I would ever use for this gun. Now there may be a fix for the body of the gun, but there is no fix for the magazines. For some reason, the extended magazines are straight and the shorter magazines are curved. This is completely ass backwards from the real 1022 magazines. While we're on the topic of the magazines, something really important to mention: when you're inserting the magazine into the receiver, the shape of the magazine will make you want to smack the bottom of it just to make sure it's clicked into place. Do not do that because this is a gas magazine and you might break it. Now, with all the nitpicking and complaining set aside, this gun is built very solid, and it would take a hell of a lot to actually break it. On top of that, there is some advantages to this platform. The grip is a standard Western Arms M4 gas blowback grip, and the stock is a standard AEG stock and buffer tube. This gives you quite a bit of customization for what you find comfortable in your hands. See, if you find a Magpul stock more comfortable, you can put that on this gun no problem. Now, as I mentioned before, this gun is very solid, but this gun is also very light. The entire lower receiver is made out of polymer, and the upper receiver, being very small, is made of metal. Also, like the real 1022, this gun has almost no recoil whatsoever. This helps increase accuracy and will help increase the accuracy of your second shot. The flip-up sights on this gun are overall very good and easy to use. However, if you don't want to use them, you can simply mount a full scope or a red dot or an ACOG or whatever you'd please to the top rail on the upper receiver. The hop-up unit adjustment on this gun is definitely the best I've seen in a long time. It's a simple dial on top of the rail that is not easy to accidentally budge but is very easy to adjust, even if you have a full scope mounted on top of the hop-up unit. As I mentioned before, the bolt is overall very small. When you completely run out of ammo, it will lock back in place like the real 1022. Also, like the real 1022, it does not have a bolt release. You simply have to eject the magazine and pull back on the bolt. The safety on this gun is easy to use. It's a push type safety on the trigger guard. Do be careful when you're taking this gun off of safe though. If you push it too hard, the whole safety pin will fall out of the gun and you have to disassemble it just to put it back in. When I chronoed this gun, it was only about 35 degrees outside. Not exactly ideal for a gun like this, but the gun still worked perfectly fine. However, the temperature did make it a little bit inconsistent, but it usually stayed in the 400s. I used propane and 0.2 gram BBs for this test, and I found that it averaged around 420 feet per second. Now on a warmer day, say about 90 degrees, it'll probably average around 430 to 440 feet per second, making it absolutely perfect for a DMR or a sniper. Now that may seem weird to say because this gun in real life is only a 22, but considering it's airsoft, it makes a lot of sense. The bolt is very small and more of the power is getting behind the BB instead of pushing the bolt back. After hearing numerous rumors about how accurate the KJW 1022 was, I decided to skip the 50 foot and 100 foot target and go straight back to 150 feet. This did not prove to be a mistake, because at 150 feet, a man-sized target is easy to hit. When you look at the video I recorded, you can see the hop-up unit was not tuned in perfectly. The BBs were starting to go downward slightly at the end of its path. Now it could have been adjusted worse, but I could have adjusted it a lot better. On top of that little problem, I was using 0.28 gram BBs, which is just a little bit too light for how hard this gun is shooting. I would honestly recommend something more like 0.35s or 0.40s. Using these BBs will make your shots fly a lot straighter, and it will not be affected by wind as near as much as lighter BBs. Even so, when I switched to the headshot target at 150 feet away, this was a breeze to hit. Even the smaller targets that were made for 22s, which are only about the size of my palm, was still very easy to hit. Overall though, I don't think this test really shows how accurate this gun is, and I'd be willing to say you'd be able to hit people up to 200 to possibly 250 feet away. This gun is really that accurate. So what's my final thoughts on this gun? It is true that I was a little disappointed that they tried to tactical up the look of the 1022. However, there is ways to fix that, and the pros far outweigh the cons of this gun. This gun is ridiculously accurate. It can shoot up to 200 feet away, possibly 250 feet away. This gun has very good gas efficiency. You can get 3 to 4 magazines out before you need to regas. Granted, it is semi-automatic only, but that does not change the fact that it is gas efficient. It's overall not too expensive. A gas blowback rifle being around $200 is very acceptable. I could honestly go on for quite a few minutes about how good this gun is and why you should buy it, but I think you've seen everything you need to know. It's a very, very good, reliable gun, and KJW did a very good job on the 1022 despite the looks. So that about sums up my review for the KJW 1022. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next video. There you are. Holy shit. What the fuck? And now he's gone.